It's 14:20 CST on the 27th of September 2025. In the South China Sea, near Scarborough Shoal, the U.S. carrier USS Nimitz suddenly spots a fast-approaching contact. Bridge alarms pierce the air. Sailors sprint to stations, scanning radar and lookout reports. Out on the horizon, a massive white hull cuts across the waves. China Coast Guard ship CCG 3104, a Jiaotu-class giant, charging in with escort cutters at its flanks. Within moments, the Chinese vessel swings dangerously close, forcing the American carrier to alter course. High-pressure water cannons roar, slamming into a nearby Philippine patrol ship and even shattering windows on local fishing boats. Radio chatter fills the air, urgent and chaotic. This is not a drill. The confrontation has begun, and the next minutes will decide whether this clash stays gray zone or spirals into something far worse. On deck, flight crews brace, tie-downs rattling. One wrong move, and steel on steel turns this standoff into a disaster. In the South China Sea, trade routes thread through the water like arteries of the global economy. Every day, oil tankers, cargo ships, and fishing boats cross these lanes, and keeping them open means keeping daily life back home steady. At this moment, USS Nimitz is not just another carrier, it is the shield standing between free passage and a blockade. With it sails BRP Malabrigo, a Philippine patrol ship, and clusters of fragile fishing boats. Together they represent not just local survival, but the broader test of whether allies can count on America's presence. China Coast Guard ship CCG 3104, reinforced by 3 cutters, does not fire missiles or guns. Instead, it presses closer with high-pressure water cannons, sudden turns, and deliberate intimidation. These so-called gray zone tactics are meant to push without crossing the red line of war. But every blast that cracks a fishing boat's glass or forces the carrier off course pushes the boundary closer to real combat. For the fishermen, this is already a battle. Families hurt, boats damaged, livelihoods at risk. If USS Nimitz holds firm, allies breathe easier, knowing America still protects these waters. If it falters, the shockwaves ripple far. Higher insurance costs, uncertain markets, and doubt spreading through every regional capital. Washington's credibility, Manila's sovereignty, and the fragile balance of peace are all on the line in this narrow stretch of sea. So, what happens now? Does the carrier stand its ground, or does China's push force it back? Drop a 1 in the comments if you think the US must hold firm, or a 9 if you believe Beijing's tactics are shifting the balance. And if you want to see how this showdown unfolds next, make sure you're subscribed. 14:35 CST. On the bridge of USS Nimitz, the situation grows tighter by the second. Radar confirms multiple Chinese cutters pushing in, while CCG 3104 blocks the carrier's path head-on. The order goes out. All ahead, slow brace for collision avoidance. The steel giant creaks as helmsmen adjust course, but the Chinese ship mirrors every move, keeping pressure on the carrier. Philippine patrol ship BRP Malabrigo calls over the radio, its voice tense. "We are taking heavy spray. Windows shattered. Fishermen injured." The water cannons blast again, hammering the smaller boats, sending shards of glass and terrified crews scrambling. Every fisherman knows they are caught between giants. 14:42 CST. Nimitz launches helicopters to provide eyes in the sky. From above, the scale of the confrontation is clear. 1 U.S. carrier, a lone Philippine patrol ship, dozens of tiny fishing boats boxed in by Chinese vessels. The carrier's defensive jets sit on deck, engines cold, held back from escalation. For now, restraint is the mission. But restraint is costly. 14:47 CST. A dangerous turn from CCG 3104 comes within mere yards of Nimitz's bow. Klaxons blare again, collision warning. The American ship holds steady, but the maneuver forces her to swing wide, breaking formation with the Philippine ship. For the Chinese, this is the play. Show dominance without firing a shot. 14:50 CST. A rescue helo skims the wave tops, rotors throwing mist. Medics hoist 2 injured fishermen and flag another boat for tow. On open radio, Nimitz repeats a safety warning in English and Mandarin. Keep clear. Cease hazardous actions. CCG 3104 offers no reply. Instead, its pumps surge again, casting a glittering white curtain across the bow, daring the carrier to yield. As tension peaks, sailors grip rails, waiting for the next order. Hold course. Do not escalate, the captain commands. But every blast of water, every close scrape, drives home the truth. One mistake, one slip of steel against steel, and this gray zone clash explodes into crisis. The horizon is crowded, the air thick with radio calls, and the sea itself feels like a battlefield without bullets. The opening round has begun not with missiles, but with pressure, intimidation, and the raw nerve of men standing their ground. 14:55 CST. The standoff drags on, and every passing minute pushes nerves closer to breaking. China's cutters split formation, circling wide and darting back in to squeeze the carrier from both flanks. From above, U.S. helicopters track the moves, each turn precise, each pass closer than before. The message is clear. They are not leaving. 15 CST. Waves slam against the hull as Nimitz holds steady. On the flight deck, sailors crouch low, securing gear, eyes fixed on the horizon. Below, engineers monitor propulsion, ready if the captain orders sudden acceleration. The carrier cannot fire back, it must endure, even as the pressure rises. The Philippine patrol ship struggles to keep position, buffeted by spray. Its crew reports cracked equipment and exhausted men. Fishing boats scatter, each blast of water splitting families. Mothers screaming into radios for help. For them, this isn't politics, it's survival in real time. 15:8 CST. CCG 3104 makes its boldest move yet. Swinging across Nimitz's bow at a distance so tight sailors can see crewmen filming with phones. One wrong calculation, one unexpected wave, and steel against steel becomes unavoidable. On both bridges, men grip consoles, praying no mistake sparks disaster. 15:15 CST. A fresh spray arcs high over Malabrigo, slamming across its bridge windows and knocking sailors flat. The patrol ship wavers, nearly broadsiding a fishing boat before steering hard to recover. Over the radio, desperate voices shout, "Stay clear! Hold position!" Chaos spreads, and every vessel feels the squeeze. Tension shifts from endurance to brinkmanship. Neither side wants war, but neither side backs down. Radios crackle with warnings, translations firing back and forth. Each second feels stretched thin, every eye locked on the sea, waiting for the next aggressive move. And this is the heart of gray zone warfare. One side pushes, the other resists, and the line between intimidation and open conflict blurs to nothing. The outcome depends on who holds their ground the longest and who blinks first. So tell us, if you were on that deck, would you hold firm with the U.S. sailors or give way under Beijing's push? Drop a 1 in the comments if you stand with holding the line, or a 9 if you think pulling back avoids disaster. And don't forget to subscribe to see how this clash escalates in the next chapter. 15:20 CST. Just when the crews think they've seen the peak of the pressure, something shifts. Chinese cutters peel away, opening a gap, but it's no retreat. Instead, smaller, faster boats surge forward, darting low across the waves. These aren't warships. They're militia-style craft, rugged fishing hulls with reinforced bows and powerful pumps, built to harass and ram if needed. For sailors on Nimitz, the new threat is harder to track. Radar struggles to lock onto the small profiles, while lookouts strain to keep count as the swarm closes in. The Philippine patrol ship warns, multiple fast contacts inbound, bearing 085. On the flight deck, pilots move toward their aircraft, waiting for launch clearance. 15:25 CST. The militia boats weave among civilian fishing vessels, hiding in the clutter. Then one lunges, blasting its water cannon across a U.S. helicopter hovering low on rescue. The rotor wash scatters the spray, but the intent is clear. China is tightening the screws with a more aggressive play. Seconds matter. The carrier's escorts adjust formation, blocking the swarm where they can. Radios crackle. do not fire unless fired upon. But the rules feel fragile, one misstep from breaking. To the Chinese, speed and numbers are their weapons. To the Americans, discipline and control remain the only shield. Now, the clash changes shape. It's no longer ship against ship, but a swarm against a giant. One spark collision, panic, or a single shot could ignite the sea. This is the twist. The fight is no longer about one carrier's path. It's about swarms, chaos, and the limits of restraint in waters already on edge. 1532 CST. The sea is chaos. Militia boats dart in, weaving between the fishing craft, while CCG 3104 looms like a wall of steel across the carrier's path. USS Nimitz, the largest ship in the fight, is boxed in by the smallest. Every sailor knows the next minutes will decide if this clash holds or breaks. Helicopters hover, their rotors cutting mist. One fishing boat drifts too close, caught between militia and patrol ship. The Philippine crew shouts warnings, but another spray blinds their bridge. At the same time, a militia craft swerves hard, its reinforced bow aimed straight at the carrier's flank. Sirens erupt, collision alert. The captain's order is sharp. Hard to port, hold your line. Nimitz shudders as engines surge, shifting just enough to avoid the ramming run. The militia boat misses by meters, spray drenching sailors on deck. Cheers break out, but tension remains. The swarm isn't finished. 1540 CST. Two militia craft lunge together, aiming at the Philippine patrol ship. Guns swivel, warning shots prepared. But Malabrigo holds fire, blocking with its hull instead. Steel scrapes as paint peels off the side, but the patrol ship stays upright. It's a gamble, risking damage to avoid escalation. Then the biggest test. CCG 3000. 104 turns in again, closing distance fast. From the bridge of Nimitz, sailors can see crewmen leaning over the bow, waving flags, signaling the carrier to yield. For the Americans, giving way means ceding the sea. For the Chinese, forcing that turn is the prize. Engines roar. The two giants converge, bows slicing the waves, spray exploding skyward. Radios scream, orders overlap, men hold their breath. One false move, and 1,000 tons of steel will collide. At the last second, CCG 3000, 104 veers off, missing Nimitz by a hair. The sea between them boils with churned water, a narrow escape but also a message. Next time, they may not turn. This is the climax, the razor's edge, where restraint and disaster blur together. So if you were there, would you match steel with steel or back down to avoid the crash? Drop a 1 in the comments if you'd hold the line, or a 9 if you think stepping back saves lives. And be sure you're subscribed, the aftermath will change everything. 1550 CST. The confrontation finally eases, but the tension doesn't fade. CCG 3000, 104 and its swarm of militia boats drift back, engines throttling down, their message already delivered. They can push a U.S. carrier and live to tell it. On the deck of Nimitz, sailors exhale, soaked and exhausted, knowing how close steel came to steel. The Philippine patrol ship limps alongside, windows shattered, crew battered but proud to still be afloat. Nearby, fishing boats regroup, families counting injuries, checking damage, whispering prayers of thanks they survived. For them, the clash wasn't about geopolitics, it was about getting home alive. The result, USS Nimitz survives intact, and the US shows it will not back down. But the cost is clear. China's gray zone tactics, cheap, persistent, and risky, force America into dangerous restraint. Every time the US avoids firing, Beijing learns how far it can push without war. Allies watch closely, seeing both reassurance in US resolve and alarm in the rising challenge. In Washington, the encounter will be debated as a victory of calm discipline or a warning sign that the old rules no longer hold. In Manila, officials hail the U.S. presence but quietly wonder how long one carrier can shoulder the strain. And across Asia, leaders take note. The South China Sea is no longer a contested sea lane. It's a pressure cooker, and each flare-up brings the water closer to boiling. For now, the sea is open. Nimitz sails on, But tonight's clash shows how fragile that openness really is. Next time, there may be more boats, closer passes, or weapons fired from the shore. The stakes will only rise. And here's the question left hanging. Is America proving it still holds the line? Or is China proving it can push without paying the price? Drop a 1 in the comments if you believe this shows US strength, or a 9 if you think Beijing gained the upper hand. And subscribe so you don't miss what happens when the next confrontation comes. It's 1742 on the 9th of August 2025. In the South China Sea, the USS John C. Stennis detects a high-speed track Mach 3 closing fast. Alarms hammer the ship. Sailors race to battle stations, boots slamming metal decks. On the flight deck, Super Hornets spark to life as handlers knife hand jets into position. Inside CIC, screens flash red, voices stack, tension climbs. E-2D calls, unknown inbound, bearing 240. Outside, the horizon glows as contrails scratch the dusk. To the east, China's carrier Shandong pushes forward, destroyers fanning wide. Link 1, 6 stutters, voice nets take over. 5,000 Americans brace for impact. One mistake, and this ship could be the next casualty at sea. The watch team pushes for clarity as DRFM noise creeps over the scope. A growler spools for launch. The deck shakes. Green shirts wave jets forward. In the flag plot, the strike group commander keeps his voice level. Hold the line. Somewhere ahead, a Virginia sub waits, silent in the thermals. Go! The South China Sea is more than water on a map. It is a highway of tankers and box ships that keeps food on shelves and factories running from California to Singapore. Tonight, the USS John C. Stennis sails as a shield for that flow. Every safe transit protects jobs, lowers costs, and signals that the rules at sea still matter. Across the horizon, China's carrier Shandong and her destroyers press forward to test that shield and measure American resolve. If they bend the lane even a little, insurers raise risk, allies hedge, and rivals redraw lines. The U.S. objective is stark: keep the sea lanes open no matter the pressure. For Washington, a carrier strike group is more than steel. It is credibility made visible. If it fails, premiums spike, partners doubt, and deterrence frays. The plan brings stealth, J-35, Type 055 with deep missile cells, and DRFM tricks that turn radar into a funhouse. The U.S. counters with E-2D eyes, growler jammers, and Aegis ships stacking layered defense. Link 1, 6 ties the picture together until it doesn't. A cyber cut can scatter the view, forcing crews back to voice nets and discipline. Here, seconds and training outweigh slogans. These stakes are human. 5,000 Americans eat, sleep, and fight on Stennis. Every choice carries weight. Beneath them, a Virginia-class sub stalks silently through a thermal layer. Somewhere ahead, a Yuan-class boat listens back. Overhead, AEW planes from both sides outline the fight. The question is simple and brutal. Who holds the lane when the jammers light up and the first missile leaves its rail? If you think the U.S. holds the edge, press 1" the comments. If you believe China's carriers and escorts can break the shield, press 9 and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. At 1810, the first Chinese J-35 lift from Shandong. Their wings glint as they climb, radars on, missiles armed. The U.S. E-2D calls them out instantly. Multiple fast movers, range 200. On Stennis, the launch sequence is already rolling. Catapults, slam, steam blasts, and F, divided by A, 18 Super Hornets leap skyward, armed with aim negative 120 seconds, and harness the fight for the air layer begins. At sea level, the Aegis destroyers swing into tighter arcs around the carrier. USS Higgins and her sisters load SM-6 interceptors, hatches snapping open. CIC crews mark every incoming track with cold precision. A buzz of voices turns into single commands: clear, fast, rehearsed 1,000 times. By 1820, jamming erupts. The J-35 throw DRFM decoys that splinter radar beams into ghost contacts. For a moment, SPY-1D sees too many targets to count. Hold tracks, don't waste shots, the commander warns. Then one lock stabilizes, and the first SM-6 streaks into the night. It arcs high, searching, then dives. A distant flash marks a kill. The crew doesn't cheer. More dots keep coming. Growlers join the fight, their pods screaming invisible noise across enemy frequencies. Pilots call Magnum as harms streak toward jammers on the Chinese flank. Explosions flare, then fade into smoke. But the sky fills again, new fighters, new missiles, more shadows to chase. At 1825, the Virginia-class submarine makes her move. USS Missouri launches a pair of Tomahawks, skimming low across the waves. They aim not at the carrier itself, but at the screen of destroyers forming the wall. If they can break that wall, Shandong becomes vulnerable. But the Chinese frigates spot the trails and scramble defenses, lighting the horizon with interceptors. One Tomahawk dies in midair. The other disappears into the haze. No confirmation yet. Above it all, contrails crisscross in jagged patterns. AMRAAMs chase PL-15. Each missile a coin flip of survival. A Hornet dodges hard, flares ripping past its canopy. A J-35 dives out, smoke trailing. The radio fills with short clip calls. Fox 3, Splash 1, defensive, break left. Explosions roll in the distance like thunder, and the night sky becomes a chessboard lit by fire. The opening exchange is brutal, fast, and nowhere near over. At 1830, the second wave arrives. Several Chinese drones slip through gaps in the radar picture, their small signatures hiding inside jamming clouds. USS Higgins fires bursts of SM-2, scoring hits on some, but not all. The carrier group shifts formation, destroyers pulling in closer, bows cutting spray as they tighten angles for mutual defense. The carrier turns a few degrees into the wind, narrowing its profile. On deck, more Hornets launch in a steady rhythm, each jet catapulted into the night sky to plug holes in the shield. Below deck, sailors haul ordnance, sweat pouring. Voices drowned by the constant thunder overhead. Every man and woman knows, if one drone breaks through, the damage could cripple the ship. Guns thunder. CIWS batteries track targets at close range, shredding metallic bodies into fireballs. Yet two drones keep coming, weaving low, sea spray washing their fuselages. Alarms howl across Stennis. Inbound range 5 miles. The deck shakes as phalanx systems spit streams of tracer fire. One drone explodes in a flash, the other slips lower, vanishing beneath radar coverage. For seconds, no one breathes. Then, silence. Did it miss, or is it still out there? In the Combat Information Center, the commander pushes for clarity. Screens flicker, voices tighten. Hold defense posture. Keep sensors scanning. Sailors reset, recheck, and reload. The wall of defense stands, but cracks are forming. Each strike burns missiles worth millions against drones that cost thousands. The math of war is shifting, and everyone inside knows it. Above, Hornets dual J-35, flares carving fiery arcs across the night. Pilots strain under G-force, voices clipped and urgent. Over comms, Fox 2, defensive break, Splash 1 bandit. The fight in the air drags on, relentless. The sea grows darker as smoke mixes with dusk. Sparks drift off the horizon where interceptors detonated seconds before. Yet the battle is far from over. Both sides trade blow for blow, neither breaking, neither giving ground. Now it's your call. If you think the US defense still holds firm, press 1 inch the comments. If you believe the Chinese wave is beginning to crack the shield, press 9 and don't forget to subscribe to follow the next strike. At 1840, just as the tempo steadies, a new threat knives in low. Radar picks up faint. Jagged returns small, fast, hugging the surface. Not J-35 or big drones. These are sea-skimming missiles built to hide in clutter and steal seconds. Inside CIC, voices tighten. SPY-1D struggles to hold locks as contacts flicker between swells. Low flyers, bearing 180, closing fast. The commander answers without pause. CRAM live, CIWS priority. Save SM-6 for high tracks. Orders ripple through steel as crews sprint. Magazines crack open, belts feed. The Aegis screen buys moments. USS Higgins and her sisters spit ESSM and SM-2 on ugly angles, meeting threats where geometry hurts. Orange bulbs bloom, others slip, wakes hidden in foam. Stennis yaws into the wind to narrow profile. CIWS mounts wake and chatter. White tracer ladders stitch the night. One missile bursts to sparks. Another vanishes under a radar lobe, then pops back up, too close. The bridge throws the rudder over. A roar, a sheet of spray, then emptiness. No hit this time. Overhead, growlers flood the band to blind seekers, while Super Hornets drop to knife-edge altitude, cueing sidewinders at low flyers. Deck cruiseman crashes gear and hoses, ready for fire that does not come. New vectors flow from a KJ-600. High above, a WZ-8 draws a silver ruler, feeding aim points. Somewhere below, a Yuan-class submarine listens for the carrier's turn. The wave thins, breaks, and reforms. The duel is no longer jets versus jets. It is salvos versus shields, deception versus discipline. The side that adapts first will hold the lane. At 1855, the last wave closes in. Tracks multiply on radar missiles, drones, and fighters, all converging at once. The carrier group braces for impact. Engage! Engage! The order cracks through the net. USS Higgins spits another spread of SM-6. The sky lights with exhaust trails as interceptors arc high, diving fast toward incoming shadows. Explosions ripple in the distance. Flashes lighting black clouds. On Stennis, the deck quakes as CIWS batteries roar. Vulcan cannons spit white-hot tracers, carving walls of steel through the night. One missile shatters. Another splits into fragments. Yet a third dives lower, weaving past the defenses. "Range 2 miles!" someone shouts. Growlers jam furiously, frying seeker heads. Super Hornets claw into the melee, firing sidewinders at J-35, still pressing the fight. Above, AMRAAMs and PL-15 chase each other like deadly comets. Their explosions brief suns in the dusk. Inside CIC, tension peaks. The commander grips the rail. Hold the line, nothing through. The room vibrates with impacts as intercepts detonate dangerously close. Sailors keep feeding ammo, their hands blistered, voices raw. One drone slips into the final mile. A CIWS mount locks, guns scream, and tracers cut the target apart. Fragments rain across the sea. The ship shakes with the shockwave, spray blasting over the bow. The horizon clears. Radar screens stabilize, red icons fading. Pilots call Winchester weapons spent. The last echoes of battle fade into smoke and static. The strike group survives. Every sailor exhales, sweat streaking faces, ears ringing from the storm of steel. They know how close it was. One more missile, one more drone, and the story could have ended differently. Tonight, the defense holds, but both sides have learned. The US can still shield its carrier, but at enormous cost. China can hurl salvos that strain even layered defenses. The duel is no longer theoretical. It is proven in fire. Now a choice for you. If you believe the US won the edge in this climax, press 1" the comments. If you think China's relentless wave showed real dominance, press 9 and hit subscribe to stay with us as the story continues. Result: the USS John C. Stennis and her strike group survive, but the cost is heavy. Magazines run low, the flight deck bears scorch marks, and crews are drained. For sailors, tonight proves discipline and courage can still beat chaos. For commanders, it warns the next fight will be harder, faster, and less forgiving. Strategically, this clash sends a signal across the Indo-Pacific. America shows it can still guard a carrier against modern salvos. Allies breathe easier, convoys move, ports work, but they also see the price. Dozens of million-dollar interceptors destroy drones and missiles that cost a fraction. The math favors the attacker, and China notes it. For Beijing, the lesson is clear. Waves of J-35, drones, and sea skimmers did not sink the carrier, but they bent the shield and mapped its seams. The plan proved it can stress layers, force the US to reveal procedures, and learn with each strike. Even without a kill, That is progress. Cyber warfare adds another shadow. The brief Link 1.6 collapse showed how fragile shared vision can be. For minutes, voice brevity replaced software. The fleet endured, but a longer blackout paired with one more wave could flip the story. Under the waves, the duel remains unfinished. Missouri reports faint clues a Tomahawk broke through, but the sea keeps its secrets. Overhead KJ 600 tracks and a streaking WZ-8 hint at greater reach next time. Both sides withdraw. Radios quiet. Hangars buzzing as crews rearm for a fight that is not over. No flags change hands. The lanes remain open, but tension thickens. The lesson is blunt. Defense works, but it is brittle and costly. Offense adapts, and it is cheap. Budgets, tactics, and alliances will shift around that truth. Tonight, the American carrier stands. Tomorrow, another wave will come, perhaps larger, perhaps mixed with shore-launched missiles. The question is no longer if, but when and who adapts first. Your call. If you think the US truly held the line, press 1 the comments. If you believe China forced a costly survival, press 9 and subscribe so you don't miss the next strike.